Welcome to the very first episode of Dream Business with Lou Reyes. Today our special guest is Ted Sikora. Ted is a Cleveland, Akron, Ohio-based comic book writer and filmmaker. He's the president of Hero Tomorrow Comics and the creator of the comic books Tap Dance Killer, Punchline and the Vaudevillians, and Bloom. He is also the creator and co-writer of Apama, the Undiscovered Animal. As a filmmaker, Ted directed and co-wrote with Milo Miller the dark comedy indie feature film Hero Tomorrow and the feature documentary Move On. He's also directed hundreds of music, education, and documentary videos, and he wrote the libretto, principal music, and the lyrics for the horror show musical Nothing Like Vaudeville. Musicals, comic books, movies. Ted, how did you get started?
Well, thanks for having me. It's a long, crazy journey. I mean, from high school, wanting to be a comic book artist, then through college, wanting to be in rock bands, forming rock bands, taking our rock concept album, we turned it into a musical. There was just so many steps along the way. At a point, the theater stuff, as much as I loved it, I was really sad when it ended. And I thought, man, if we made a movie, it would always be there just like we left it. So my friend Milo Miller, who I met at the University of Akron, we'd always had a huge affinity for independent film. We wrote Hero Tomorrow, which is this dark comedy romance about a guy who has an idea for a superhero. He can't get it published, but his girlfriend, being an aspiring fashion designer, makes him a costume of his own character for Halloween. Then he starts running around in this costume, actually trying to fight crime, but with no superpowers. So this movie really was the thing that changed my career. It originally opened at the San Diego Comic-Con, played Fantasia Film Festival, and, fests all over the world. And what happened is the superhero idea that he was trying to develop in the movie was called Apama. Many people saw the movie said, there's really no comic like this. You should make that as a comic. So we decided to do the book that was in the main character's head, which then became Apama, the Undiscovered Animal. That ran for 11 issues so far, and within it, we introduced several characters, the most notable being the Tap Dance Killer here. And she now has her own series, which brings us to another series. This other character we introduced in Apama was Regina, and now she's got her own series coming out titled Bloom, about a photographer who has an idea for a villain, and he asks her to shoot some photos in the woods. He wants to paint these symbols on her body that came to him while he was on acid. And turns out when she has these symbols on her body and they're deep into the woods, she sort of, to quote Jim Morrison, breaks on through to the other side.
So now you're funding this also through Kickstarter?
We are. When we do a comic, you pay for the art, you have to get it printed. The distributor orders X amount of copies. Well, we do not sell enough through the distributor to pay for that whole process. Mm-hmm. But through the conventions, we do. So we just had to wait. But now I thought I'd do a hybrid release this year with all of our stuff. So we're going to be running a short Kickstarter campaign while it's being solicited in the national catalog. So we're making up for our lost convention income, and the shops can still order it as well.
So the question that I guess that begs to be asked is, are you making a full-time income on this? How does this work with you? Is this your full-time gig?
Between film and comics, yes. So I do a lot of shooting, video production. I'd say it's about 60 film, 40 comics in terms of the split.
So when you say filming, you're saying, is that you're shooting for other people, you're being hired to camera for hire?
Yeah.
What has been your biggest challenge as a creator?
In making comics, you got to hire a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, an editor, then you pay. So that was not really ever an option when we were starting out. So I learned a lot of those skills on my own. So I'll hire an artist who can do the pencils and the inks. I get it back. I'll do the coloring and then the lettering. And I'll act as the editor, but I'll run it by some industry professionals who give me good tips on that. So I've been able to keep the overhead low. This has helped make it profitable.
Where do you see yourself, Ted? I mean, in 5 years?
What's neat about comics compared to film is, and I see this with my filmmaking friends all the time. God bless them. But like with film, you have a screenplay and you can try getting it made for 10 years, 15 years,
Yeah.
and it's just, it may never happen. With comics, we make a story, we put it out onto the next, and it's really this liberating thing as a writer. So like right now in my head, there's like 15 issues that I know we're going to produce. Meanwhile, we're shopping around the intellectual property to production studios to potentially have a bigger budget film or TV series made of this whole universe.
You're married. I know that. Do you have children too?
We have one daughter.
How much time do you have like I always want to ask this question, like a work-life balance. It seems like with all the creative stuff you've got going on, is there a work-life balance here?
There is. And what's really great with my daughter is she's a wonderful young writer, and she'll be the first person who proofreads the comics, and she's very supportive of it. And, she'll pose for me for layouts. So I'll just snap some photos with my iPhone, and then she ends up kind of showing up in the book there.
That's fantastic. She's immortalized in your comic books.
She is, yes, yeah. But I call her the assistant editor because I'm always bouncing ideas off of her.
And if somebody watching this video, if they thought that this is a path that they like to go down, maybe launching their own comic book or writing a book and trying to get it published, I mean, what advice would you have, or do you have for someone who wants to take the path that you're taking?
Start writing it, start making it, especially, if we're talking about like a novel or something, there's no cost to entry there. With comics, it is different. You've got to either be the artist yourself or hire an artist. And again, coming from film to comics, the cost of making a comic is so much less than making a film. And you can go anywhere, in our book, we go to the moon, and it's like, imagine trying to shoot something like this. So there's a lot of forums where you can try to latch on to other people who are starting out. But I would say also, develop your idea, get it copywritten, and go to comic conventions when they happen again, and talk to artists and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And, I like your style, or, could we possibly work together on something like this? But I think it's just the most important thing is to start and to put real time on your own before you bring a whole bunch of other people into it, because you control your destiny,
Ted, I want to thank you for coming on our show today. I've been an admirer of yours for a very long time. And actually, I think it was the first time when I saw you was with your feature film, your indie film, Hero Tomorrow. That film just blew me away. And I got to tell you, you've been an inspiration to me. And to the audience out there, if Ted's story has inspired you, I'll just ask you to consider supporting him and Hero Tomorrow Comics. I'm going to put a link to his Bloom Kickstarter campaign. It'll be in the description box. If you become a supporter, I can tell you this, you'll get some pretty cool gifts. Well, that's all I want to do today, and just want to thank you for watching this first edition of Dream Business with yours truly, Lou Reyes. And if you have any comments, please go ahead and just put them in the description box. Before I forget, though, let me ask you to subscribe to Over 50 TV. To do that, you just got to hit that little red button. There's also a little bell. If you hit that little bell, you'll be notified every single time I upload a new video. Well, as I always say, have a great day, everybody.